I got a writing sample I've been working on. It's dynamite.
I had no idea you wrote.
So who are your influences?
Shakespeare, Krakauer, the hot mom who wrote Twilight.
I have the perfect piece to start you off with. There's a guy who claims he has the secret to the Bermuda Triangle.
We'll see you in 3 weeks with a story that's gonna blow your mind.
Gulliver's Travels.
That's right, before Rob Letterman directed Detective Pikachu, now in theaters, he did 2010's Gulliver's Travels starring Jack Black. Big comedy fun for the whole family. Jack Black from Kung Fu Panda and School of Rock is larger than life in this epic comedy adventure based on the classic tale. When a shipwreck lands a lowly mailroom clerk named Gulliver on the fantastical island of Lilliput, he transforms into a giant in size and ego. Gulliver's tall tales and heroic deeds win the heart of the tiny Lilliputians, but when he loses it all and puts his newfound friends in peril, Gulliver must find a way to undo the damage. Through it all, Gulliver may just learn that it's how big you are inside that counts. Point of reference, he also did that Goosebumps movie, which I reviewed before for Blockbusters show, and I still think that's a decent little nostalgia bomb movie. This, on the other hand, this is definitely a product of the 2010s. So in this version, Gulliver works in the mailroom of some high-end company in New York City. He has a huge crush on Amanda Peet, who's like a higher-up in the company. And to impress her, he makes up a lie saying that he's been all around the world and that he's been writing about going to these places in his spare time. And so when she asks for a prompt, he ends up plagiarizing a bunch of articles to impress her, and so she decides, hey, why don't you go write a story about the Bermuda Triangle? So he rents a boat, he ends up going out there, he gets sucked into a vertical whirlpool, and he ends up in the land of Lilliput with people who are about the size of action figures. And from there, that's where the story of the first book of Gulliver's Travels kicks in. At first, they think he's a monster, and they lock him up, and there he befriends Jason Segel, who's doing a British accent. They either got British people or people doing British accents. And we also see the people who rule this place. We see the king and queen, the king being played by Billy Connolly, and the queen is played by Catherine Tate, and the princess of Lilliput is played by Emily Blunt, who, out of everybody in the film, she seems to be the most disinterested. Like, every time they show her, she has this look on her face that just says, I really don't want to be here. And the reason that Jason Segel's character was locked up was because he was trying to ask the princess out when she's supposed to get married to some rich douchebag general guy played by an actor named Chris O'Dowd. Gulliver proves himself to the Lilliputians when he saves the king from a burning castle, and he takes it out by pissing on it. And ever since then, he becomes just a hero to them, and he makes up all these tall tales about how great he is. He was the president, how he's lived through the events of stuff like Pirates of the Caribbean and Star Wars and Titanic. He also helps the Lilliputians when they're going to war with this feuding nation that's also filled with action figure-sized people. And in return, they build him an awesome house with a foosball table and this little theater where they reenact all these popular movies and pop culture references. Another thing that Jack Black as Gulliver does is he convinces Emily Blunt as the princess and Jason Segel, who's just like a commoner, to go out, and that throws a monkey wrench into the arranged marriage of her and Chris O'Dowd. So that's one of the main reasons why Chris O'Dowd is so pissed off. Gulliver becomes so influential in Lilliput that they basically redesigned the center of their town to look like Times Square, New York, filled with all these billboards and parodies of popular brands. And of all things, you've got Avatar with Jack Black in it, but my favorite reference, because it was just like, wow, of all movies you went with that, they did X-Men Origins. Anyway, Chris O'Dowd gets pissed off that Gulliver is so influential upon this place, so he finds this magazine that they established at the beginning when Gulliver is first going out to the Bermuda. He's reading a magazine and he goes, build your own robot. Yeah, right, like anybody could do that. In the movie, they've established that the Lilliputians are fantastic builders, so he builds the giant robot and he fights Gulliver, and this is when Gulliver, the liar revealed trope comes out, and he goes, yeah, it turns out I'm just some guy who works in a mailroom in a New York business building, and so they banish him. And where they send him is to this land of giants where he's made into a little girl's play toy. Another thing is Chris O'Dowd now swears allegiance to the feuding nation of the Lilliputians, so now it seems like Lilliput is really screwed. Darcy, Amanda Peet's character, she's now in Lilliput because Gulliver has been gone for so long, so now they've captured her and locked her up. So then Jason Segel runs off to go get Gulliver. We have a motivational speech of, "You're my best friend, you were always there for me, now I'm here for you." And then Gulliver gets his gumption back, rescues everyone, breaks them out of their jail cells, and says he wants to have a rematch against Chris O'Dowd. And so Chris O'Dowd in the robot suit goes up against Jack Black, while Jason Segel, who's, you know, the same size as Chris O'Dowd, he goes inside the robot suit and fights him and defeats him from the inside, and Jack Black defeats the robot body. So they've defeated evil Chris O'Dowd. And Emily Blunt also gets to punch him in the face, because that was like a recurring thing, is that she's like, "Oh, I'm always getting kidnapped," and, you know, she finally just says screw it and punches him out herself. And then the most bizarre part of the movie happens. Like, all the pop culture references, all the, like, look, we're 20th Century Fox, we're hip, we're modern, we're referencing all this cool stuff. That was one thing. Then there's a song sequence. As the two nations are about to go to war, Jack Black jumps into a musical number and starts singing "War, What Is It Good For?" And there's choreography, everyone's singing along, blah, 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 happy endings all around. The two nations aren't going to war. Gulliver and Darcy go back to New York, and Gulliver slowly starts actually legitimately working his way up in the news company and doesn't feel bad about the fact that he's just some guy working in the mailroom. In the end, I just kind of chalk this up as generic family movie that Fox clearly just thought like families are just going to go to, because it's got Jack Black and it's got tons of references to popular things that we all know. This movie has a decent cast. Like, Jack Black, he has been in stuff that I liked, but, you know, whenever he's playing just stereotypical Jack Black, Billy Connolly is the king they barely do anything with. I'm not really a Jason Segel fan. Whenever I see Jason Segel in movies, he's just kind of like just chugging along, and that's what he's doing in this. He's just chugging along through the movie. And Emily Blunt, like I said earlier, she just has this look on her face the entire movie where it looks like she just does not want to be there. It just feels like they made it just because, hey, it's based on a property. In this case, it's based on a series of books that are like literary classics, and they just decided, we'll modernize it. We'll just put all this modern crap in there just so the families can get a cheap laugh. It's not a horrible movie to sit through, but yeah, you could definitely do far better. There's probably better Gulliver's Travels adaptations compared to this. We got one more video for Blockbusters this month. It's going to be a double feature episode. We're going to be looking at movies with talking dogs. One of them is also made by 20th Century Fox and has Owen Wilson. And the other one is a lower budget film that went straight to video, and it stars Gary Busey.
Here, kitty. Here, kitty. Get kitty. Kitty.
So that should be pretty fun. Until then, I'm Adam Sykes of The Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
Close game.